Right then, settle in. Hollywood loves selling you a story about a tortured genius, doesn't it? An artist who suffers for his craft, a brooding soul who changes the world with a single tormented glance. Grand, pure all guff, the lot of it. They want you to remember Marlon Brando as the fella who reinvented acting, the sensitive brute from A Streetcar Named Desire. But the real story, the one with the carry-on, the devilment, and the staggering awe-inspiring ego, the story of how one man, a king in his own mind, took a multi-million-dollar picture, sailed it to paradise, and then proceeded to burn it to the waterline for his own amusement. Now, that's the good stuff. Let me tell you the absolute hames they made of Mutiny on the Bounty.
Let's go!
Our story begins not with a bang, but with the quiet hum of a cash-counting machine. It's the late 1950s, and Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, the studio with more stars than there are in heaven, is in a bit of a bind. The golden age is over, the studio system is crumbling, and television is gobbling up their audience. They've just sunk an absolute fortune into their religious epic Ben-Hur, and it paid off big time. So, like any gambler on a winning streak, they decide to let it ride. What's the formula? Find a beloved classic, preferably one of your own, and remake it in glorious, eye-popping colour and widescreen.
Okay.
Their eyes fall on their 1935 Best Picture winner, Mutiny on the Bounty, the rip-roaring tale of the tyrannical Captain Bligh and the heroic Fletcher Christian, played then by the swaggering, masculine perfection of Clark Gable. It's a can't-miss prospect, a classic adventure story, good versus evil on the high seas, exotic locations, it has everything. The executives at MGM, men not known for their wild imaginations, see a straightforward path to another mountain of cash. So, they start spending. And they start big. First, they need a boat. Not just any boat, not some cheap model, work, or a repurposed fishing trawler. They decide they need a perfect, historically accurate, seaworthy replica of the original 18th century HMS Bounty.
Oh damn!
They commission a shipyard in Lunenburg, Nova Scotia, to build it from the keel up. It takes 2 years and costs $750,000 before a single actor has been hired. She's a magnificent vessel, 115 feet of hand-hewn timber and tarred rope. But she's cursed. On her maiden voyage from Canada down to the filming location in Tahiti, through the Panama Canal, an electrical fire breaks out on board. A bad omen, if ever there was one.
Well, that's bad luck.
The crew manages to put it out, but the stench of smoke and trouble lingers. Next, they need a director. They get one of the best in the business, the knighted Englishman, Sir Carol Reed. This is the fella who directed The Third Man, one of the most atmospheric, perfectly crafted films ever made. Reed is a proper artist, a man with a vision. He doesn't see a simple adventure story. He sees a complex psychological drama, a battle of wills between two proud, stubborn men, trapped together in a wooden cage on the vast, indifferent ocean. He wants to explore the grey areas, the subtleties of power and rebellion. For those men, they aim for the top shelf. For the obsessive, tyrannical Captain Bligh, they cast the brilliant English actor Trevor Howard, a man of immense talent, a proper professional who knows his lines and hits his marks. He's also a legendary drinker, a man who understands the value of a stiff drink when faced with impending chaos. He would need it. And for the heroic mutineer, Fletcher Christian, they need a star. A big one. They need the biggest, most electrifying, most dangerous actor on the planet. They need Marlon Brando. Now, this is the early 1960s, and Brando is at a crossroads. He's the man who changed acting forever with his raw, mumbled naturalism in the 50s. But his reputation for being difficult is already legendary. He's just finished directing his own film, a western called One-Eyed Jacks, a production so torturous and over budget it nearly sank Paramount Pictures.
You smell something, Rabbit? Fear.
The studios see him as a genius. Aye, but a head-the-ball genius. Unpredictable. Unmanageable. He signs on for a cool $1.25 million, an astronomical sum, with clauses in his contract that give him unheard of creative control.
Uh-oh.
MGM is so desperate for his star power, they hand him the keys to the asylum before he's even stepped inside. The cast and crew assemble in Tahiti, a place so beautiful it seems unreal. A paradise of turquoise lagoons, volcanic peaks, and endless sunshine. They are there to make a movie. Marlon Brando is there to start a new life. From the moment he steps off the plane, he is utterly captivated. Not by the script, not by the production, but by the island itself. The laid-back pace of life, the warmth of the Polynesian people, the escape from the suffocating phoniness of Hollywood, it's everything he's ever wanted. He immediately starts learning the language, embracing the culture, and, in the process, completely abandoning any sense of professional responsibility to the multi-million-dollar film he's been hired to star in. The trouble starts, as it often does, with the written words. Brando takes one look at the script, the one Carol Reed has been carefully developing, and decides it's rubbish.
Apple core, trash. You can do the rest.
He's not interested in playing Fletcher Christian as the heroic, square-jawed leader of men that Clark Gable portrayed. That's old-fashioned, that's Hollywood. Brando has a new idea. A revolutionary idea, in his mind. He decides that Fletcher Christian should be a foppish, aristocratic dandy. An effete, almost comically posh Englishman who finds himself completely out of his depth on a ship full of rough sailors. He starts practicing a plummy, exaggerated upper-class accent that makes the actual English actors on set, like Trevor Howard and Richard Harris, want to throw him to the sharks. He demands a whole new wardrobe of silks, flowing shirts, and tight-fitting trousers, feeling this is essential to his new interpretation. Carol Reed is horrified. This is not the psychological drama he signed on for. This is a farce. He has his vision, Brando has his. They are two immovable objects, and the collision is immediate and spectacular. Brando, armed with the power his contract gives him, simply starts ignoring the director. He holds court on the beach, surrounded by his own little gang of sycophants, his pals as he calls them, and he begins rewriting the script himself. Every night, he churns out new pages filled with rambling, philosophical monologues and bizarre character choices. The next morning, he'll arrive on set and hand out the new scenes to the other actors, completely disregarding the official script and the director's plans. The production grinds to a halt. The professional actors, men like Trevor Howard and Richard Harris, are going spare. They've spent the night learning their lines, preparing for a scene, only to have Brando show up with a completely new version he's cooked up with the help of his friend, a local bar owner with absolutely no screenwriting experience. The set becomes a war zone. Carol Reed, a knight of the British Empire, is reduced to a helpless bystander. Brando is in charge. One day, Reed sets up a complex shot, only for Brando to refuse to say the scripted lines. "I'll say what I want to say," he declares, and proceeds to improvise for several minutes, ruining the take. The tension is unbearable. It gets so bad that the studio has to fly in executives from Hollywood to mediate. They listen to Reed's complaints, they listen to Brando's justifications, and in the end, they make the only decision a terrified studio can make. They back their star. After all, stars sell tickets, directors just point the camera. Sir Carol Reed, one of the finest filmmakers of his generation, is unceremoniously fired from his own picture. So, they bring in a new director, a veteran, a man they think can handle a big production and a bigger star. They hire Louis Milestone, an old fella who'd won an Oscar for directing All Quiet on the Western Front back in 1930. Milestone arrives in Tahiti, thinking he's there to save a troubled picture. He quickly realizes he's been hired as Marlon Brando's personal assistant. Brando walks all over him. He publicly mocks Milestone's directorial suggestions. He continues his nightly rewrites. The film has no captain, no guiding vision. It's adrift, and the budget is taking on water at an alarming rate. Milestone later said of the experience, "You can't make a picture with a fellow who is a genius, a child, and a seducer, all in one." He called the film the Mutiny of Marlon Brando. The costs are spiraling into the stratosphere. The original budget was around $8 million. It's now climbing past $15 million, then $18 million.
Oh my god.
The studio is bleeding money. They're paying a massive international crew to sit around in paradise, swimming, fishing, and drinking the bars dry, while Brando plays at being a writer. The stories of his on-set antics become the stuff of legends. He becomes obsessed with the fit of his custom-made English trousers, and his habit of doing deep knee bends splits the seams on over 50 pairs, each one costing a small fortune to be replaced and flown in. He goes on bizarre crash diets, his weight fluctuating so wildly that his appearance changes from one scene to the next, creating a continuity nightmare for the editors. He stages elaborate practical jokes. He fills the bilge of the ship with thousands of empty beer bottles that rattle and clang, ruining the sound recording for an entire day. He develops a habit of fluffing his lines in every take except the last one, a power play to ensure the final edit will use his preferred performance. And then there's the personal carry-on, which becomes inseparable from the production. Brando falls head over heels for his beautiful 9-year-old Tahitian co-star, Tarita Teriapaya, who plays his love interest in the film.
You haven't seen Insane yet. This is insane!
She would become his third wife and the mother of 2 of his children. His messy personal life, including a bitter and very public custody battle with his first wife, Anna Kashfi, often spills onto the set, causing even more delays as he deals with lawyers and emotional turmoil.
Order in the goddamn court!
He was, in essence, building a new life for himself in Tahiti, and the film was just an inconvenient, though very well paid, distraction. The other actors are at their wits' end. Richard Harris, a fiery Irishman who was no stranger to a bit of devilment himself, develops a deep and abiding hatred for Brando. He can't stand his unprofessionalism, his lack of respect for his fellow actors, his endless self-indulgence. He was a slob, Harris would later say.
I didn't realise it could be this bad. Thank you.
They almost come to blows several times, their on-screen animosity fueled by a very real off-screen loathing. Trevor Howard, playing the tormented Captain Bligh, simply retreats into the bottle. He's a professional. He shows up, says his lines with simmering rage, and then gets blind drunk. He knows the ship is sinking, and he's just trying to make it to the lifeboats with his dignity and his liver intact.
Hey, I tried my best!
Finally, after 6 agonizing months, they get what they have of the film in the can and flee Tahiti as if escaping a plague. But the nightmare isn't over, they've only filmed the first half of the story. They still have to shoot the mutiny itself, Bligh's incredible journey in the longboat, and Fletcher Christian's tragic end on Pitcairn Island. They move the production back to the MGM backlot in Culver City, California, to shoot on the sound stages and in the studio's massive water tank. The hope is that, away from the distractions of paradise, Brando might actually start behaving like a professional actor. He doesn't. His behaviour, if anything, gets worse.
You suck, you jackass!
He continues to rewrite scenes. He starts directing the other actors, giving them line readings and blocking their movements, much to the fury of Lewis Milestone. He perfects his habit of mumbling his lines, a trademark that drives the sound engineers mad and makes much of the dialogue unusable. The tension between him and the rest of the cast is unbearable. It gets so bad that he and Trevor Howard refuse to be on set at the same time. If you watch the film closely, there are scenes where Bligh and Christian are in the same room, arguing, but they are never in the same shots. They were filmed on different days, their lines delivered to an empty room, and the scene was stitched together in the editing bay. The final scene to be shot is the death of Fletcher Christian. In the script, he dies, a hero's death, burned in a fire while trying to save the bounty. It's a dramatic, tragic end. Brando has other ideas. He decides that his character, after being horribly burned, should deliver a long, rambling, philosophical speech about the nature of man and the corruption of civilization. The studio is apoplectic. They've got a nearly 3-hour adventure film on their hands that's already cost them a king's ransom. The last thing they need is for the hero to die, delivering a pretentious philosophy lecture.
Please don't do this.
They fight him on it. The arguments go on for days. Brando refuses to shoot the scene as written. In the end, a compromise is reached.
Not again!
He gets to do his death speech, but it's trimmed down in the final edit to a few mumbled, incoherent words. The film is finally finished, nearly 2 years after it started. The budget, originally planned at a generous $8 million, has swollen to an obscene $19 million. When marketing and distribution costs are added, the total investment is closer to $30 million.
I will crush you, Grand Prix.
In today's money, that's over $250 million. MGM, which was already on shaky financial ground, has bet the entire company on this one picture, and it bombs hard. It premieres in November 1962, and the critics savage it. They despise Brando's strange, foppish portrayal of Fletcher Christian, comparing it unfavourably to Clark Gable's robust masculine hero. They find the film bloated, self-indulgent and boring. Time magazine calls it a floating behemoth that moves at the speed of an iceberg. The public, who have been reading about the scandalous production for 2 years, stay away in droves. The film only makes back about $13 million at the box office, a catastrophic soul-crushing loss for MGM.
Room's starting to spin real fast.
So now you know the real story. And when you strip away the beautiful Tahitian scenery and the romance of the high seas, what's the lesson here? What do we learn from this voyage to hell and back? It's about power. It's about what happens when the lunatics are not only running the asylum, but have also been given the keys to the pharmacy and the budget office. The old studio system, in its desperate dying days, had created a monster, the superstar. An actor so powerful, so bankable, that he could hold an entire multi-million-dollar production hostage to his every whim, his every fleeting artistic notion. Marlon Brando wasn't just an actor in this film, he was the de facto writer, director, producer, and king. He was a genius, no doubt about it. But he was a genius without a filter, without a boss, without anyone in a position of authority brave enough to look him in the eye and say no.
No, God! No, God, please, no! No!
This wasn't a film set, it was a tropical kingdom, and Marlon Brando was its mad, unpredictable, sunstroked king. He had the power to hire and fire, to create and destroy. And like so many absolute monarchs, he built a magnificent monument to his own ego, and in the process, he nearly burned the whole bloody kingdom to the ground. The studio gave him the keys to the castle, and he proceeded to have a massive 2-year-long party, redecorate the place to his own bizarre tastes, and leave them with a bill that nearly bankrupted them. As me old fella used to say, give a man enough rope and he'll hang himself. Hollywood gave Marlon Brando the rope, and he nearly hung a whole studio with it. It's a cautionary tale, not about a mutiny on a boat, but about a mutiny against common sense, against professionalism, against the very idea of making a film itself. Right, I'm off. Sloncha.